Hello, it's AlinaGG, and I have a very special guest today from the music industry, Elysae. Welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So excited to do this all day.
I know, same. We were just having a little giggle, weren't we, before we just got on? And I was like, "How are we going to introduce you?" And you said to me, "I'm just a girl from the Central Coast who likes to make music in the sunshine." And yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I love that.
pretty much. I
Yeah.
just write songs, make music, try to spend lots of time outdoors, and
Yeah.
that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, what's a great starting point? Like you've just been traveling, haven't you?
Yeah, I've just been over in the top end of WA over in the Kimberleys, um,
Wow.
which is just, yeah, incredible. A huge reset just going back and totally
Yeah.
different to the East Coast, obviously. So
Yeah.
quiet, so much nature, no lights, go to bed at like 7 p.m.
Oh, that sounds
It's
beautiful.
great.
Wow. And so does that inspire you being in nature? Does that help you plug in and recharge?
Yeah, I think the big thing for nature with me is it's mostly the big reset, I think. I think I'm generally pretty inspired in my life and all the craziness that's going on, but then the nature is what brings me back to my center to like be able to create and be able to, do all the crazy things that are happening and stay somewhat grounded. So I feel like nature's like the biggest like healer, like come back to yourself type of
Yeah.
energy for me.
Yeah. Very grounding, very centering.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I connect with that a lot.
Mm,
Wonderful.
yeah.
I'm curious, like your musical journey, did you grow up in a musical family?
Somewhat. Like my parents, they always believed that it was really important for us kids to get piano lessons or music lessons of some sort. Um, well, I guess their philosophy was just, try all the different things and learn all the different skills. And they both learnt, I think my mum learnt piano and my dad played a bit of guitar. But that was sort of as they were growing up. And then on my mum's side, like my nan was a singer and my auntie's a singer. But mostly like my auntie is like a karaoke queen.
Oh, awesome.
Absolutely loves it. So yeah, it's always been like a part of the family.
Oh, that's great. In a really fun way by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I always remember like going to visit my nan and she had, the old upright pianos and they had the like the pianola, like where you put the
Yes.
scroll in and you're all there and you're like kicking your feet, like making the piano sing for itself.
Oh,
It was yeah, lots of memories around the piano with my nan like that.
that's priceless. Wow. That's so lovely to
Yeah.
draw on and have that as an inspiration to keep with you in your heart whilst you're writing your songs.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Very special.
And with your songwriting process, is that mainly on guitar? You start writing songs there?
Yeah, so I actually learnt piano first growing up. But that was very structured. I learnt classical piano. And so I got a lot of my musical base from that. But I suppose because it was so structured, I struggled to create on that. And so then yeah, I just picked up my dad's guitar and because I knew nothing about it, I suppose it gave me that free rein to be able to create without
Mm.
those sort of limitations of the knowledge,
Yeah.
and almost apply that knowledge that I had in a more like effortless way and integrated way. So
Yeah.
yeah, mostly I reach for my guitar, but I still play piano quite a lot, but it's just I
Yeah.
suppose it feels more natural to reach for the guitar.
Yeah, I get that. I hear that. I studied classical
Mm,
piano as well for 15 years and had to do the exams
wow.
and that. And yeah, but
Yeah.
I would still
Going through
write songs on
AMEB.
piano. What's that?
Going through AMEB and doing all of
Yeah,
that.
yep. I did all
Yeah.
the AMEB exams at the Conservatorium of Music in Sydney,
Yeah.
and look, it was a great experience to have that discipline to practice every day and to learn music theory and the foundation of music. But then I felt it a bit restricting and limiting sometimes as well to be able to just put all that aside and like tune in more intuitively into music and the creative
Yeah.
process without it being right or wrong. It's like you go for your exams and it's like, A minus, B plus. It's like, it's like I
I
just want to enjoy
know.
music.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
always really struggled with that and still do. Like I find piano like I think I have really good knowledge of music like from all that. But yeah,
Yeah.
just going to like go to the piano and just play, it's like it's not natural to me for that
Mm.
same reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a I used to look at I did music at uni and I used to look at my friends who had like no musical training and they were producing all these amazing tracks and I was just like, damn, I almost wish I didn't even learn how to play. But then, there's always the other side of like, oh, I'm really grateful I did because I can do all this other stuff now because of that knowledge. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's always grass is greener, seeing
Yes.
how different I don't know, I suppose how creatives work in different ways with training and not training and all the different things.
Yeah, that's right. It's so diverse. And
Yeah.
I noticed on Instagram you're doing like 52 songs in 52 days or something. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about that?
52 weeks.
52
Yeah.
weeks. I was like, she's so
Yeah.
prolific.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Yeah, well, I guess it kind of was just I don't even know where it started. I suppose it just felt like a bit of a personal challenge. When I started writing music, like years and years ago, I used to write all the time. I would write like multiple songs a week, like just doing it all the time. And then um I don't know why, but when I went to uni, like that really slowed down. I think I was really like comparing myself to all the people around me who were also creatives, and I stopped creating and writing a lot. And so I suppose like that was a while ago, so I'm writing a lot more regularly now, but I suppose it felt more like a personal challenge of like, okay, let's try to do a song every single week. And then like in terms of putting it out on social media, I suppose one that sort of felt like it was helping me to stay accountable and then also to be able to let go of like the perfectionism around putting stuff out because I used to like I don't know, it would take me so long to put up a post because I'm like, it's only going up if it's perfect and this, that, and whatnot. And I found it really fun, especially like with doing this. Sometimes you're like, all right, this week I don't have anything to write about. Nothing's happened in my life. Like I don't feel inspired by anything that I'm drawing on. And so it's been a fun way to like connect with my audience and see like to have them to share their stories and to see if I can create something with their experiences, which I've really
Mm,
loved.
that's so
Um,
cool. It's so down to earth.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Oh,
better to
thank
have
you.
it's just better to get something out there and get like it's like, yeah, done over perfect or, completed over
Yeah.
perfect rather than it's otherwise it's just all up in the air. Nothing tangible is there to share with people. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing happens and like sometimes it's just I think I was also always very self-conscious about like putting stuff up online, especially like music related or singing, was sort of like seen as this like boasting thing of like, oh, look at me, look at me. Um, and then I don't know, I think I just had to kind of get over that. And I was like, well, that's not what it is. And it is a way to connect, and it's just how many things have you never shared because you were scared that someone would, take it in a way that you don't want them to take it, or it's just like self-judgment. So sometimes it's just like to get out of your own way, it's just better to share than to, have books of hundreds of songs or hundreds of quotes or things that you've got to share. That's just what use is it sitting like collecting dust, you know?
Yeah. That is really well said. Like, yeah, that's why we're here to
Yeah,
uplift and inspire each other and to become the fullest versions of ourselves. And
yeah.
yeah, that's
No,
great.
that's
And
why
it's like,
you've got a podcast.
oh, yeah, one of the reasons. Yeah, 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 for
Yeah.
sure. It's exactly like to just to express for the sake of it and have a great conversation
Mhm.
that someone might be having a crappy day and then they listen to it and they're like, I feel better now. It's like, isn't that
Yeah.
enough? Yes, that is enough.
Yeah, just that one person. And even if it's just for yourself sometimes, it's like that one person can be me.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
enough.
Yeah, great. And just balance it out, the
Yeah.
giving and the receiving, the taking action and the being and the resting and the nature.
Yeah.
And it's like if we can balance that energy within ourselves, then everything
Mm.
else that comes out from that space is like so heart aligned and so energized
Yeah.
we were just speaking before we started recording about, you know, the
Yeah.
shift in the world into the more embracing this feminine energy, and that's coming
Mm,
through. Yeah.
yeah. I think, isn't that the dream, to be able to have everything that you put out and everything that you do and say come from that heart space? Like,
Yes. Yes,
yeah, I think
definitely.
that's the ideal eventually. Um, it's always a balance and work in progress. But yeah, I think I see that, like, even in pop culture at the moment, you know, like everywhere you look, like two of the biggest things at the moment is like Barbie movie, like everyone's wearing pink, everyone's, you know, that real feminine reconnection. And then you've got like some of the biggest like female artists doing like huge things, like Taylor Swift is like on top of the world right now, and like Beyonce doing all their things. Like it almost feels like this, like, you know, there was a moment in time where it was really uncool to like the female pop stars, and you're supposed to like grungy music, or like, you know, you have to be cool and a bit more like
Mm.
tomboyish. And it feels like this um I don't even know what what you would call it, but just like this reconnection with, oh, it's like
Yeah.
okay to be a bit girly and
Yeah.
to
To be it
connect
all,
with that.
you know,
Yeah.
Debbie Harry, Chrissy Hind, like
Yeah.
express, be yourself, own it. It's so powerful and inspiring. And yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And
Yeah.
especially like they really show that you can be both. You know, you don't
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
just be really feminine or really masculine. Like you can be both and tap
Yeah.
into them at different times.
Yeah. We're multi-dimensional beings, you know.
Yeah.
So
There's many layers.
yeah, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
So okay, so when you connect with your friends and like what do you do for fun? Like what's your favorite thing to do other than
Um,
music?
yeah, I'm a pretty big homebody, to be honest. Like I think being a musician, a lot of people would be like, oh, gigs all the time and like doing all these big events. Um, honestly, most of the time, if I'm like hitting up a friend, like, let's catch up, it's like, let's go to the beach, or let's go for this hike, or let's like cook food and have tea and just sit
Oh,
around and chat.
that sounds so
Um,
nice, so nurturing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of my, yeah, where my socializing tends to take place. And I have a lot of like creative friends, not even necessarily all in music, but like they love to dance or love to do art. And um, yeah, so I just love connecting in ways where we're either just out in nature and chatting, or like, I don't know, doing some other form of creativity.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice and nurturing.
Yeah, and like different forms of creativity, it's like they help still strengthen your art form because you're
Yeah,
practicing that part of yourself. Like it's really interesting. Like you can be inspired and do a nice painting, and then you can cook a nice meal, and then you can be all of a
mm,
sudden get the idea for a song and be like, where did that come from? It's because you
yeah.
were still keeping connected to that creative energy flow within yourself, right?
Yeah, and that like that creativity becomes sort of just more like a way of life and a way of being, rather than something you
Yes.
switch on and switch off when it's like time to write a song. Okay, switch that creativity button on.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
really love
incredible.
that.
Yeah, it feels like it's the integration, of what you do and how you do it. And it's a
Yeah,
choice. It's like, well, you know what? This is how I want to live my life. I'm going to tune into what feels like the right thing to do today. And then I'm going to allow that
yeah,
inspiration to flow in, because we're not going to control that inspiration with the logical mind and go, well, I can be
no.
inspired between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. today. It's like, well,
Only then, and then we're back to work.
yeah. Yeah, no thanks. That's not for me.
No,
Yeah.
it's funny because I am quite a structure person. I do thrive on structure, but sometimes even just like setting the intention of like, well, I suppose even just having the intention that I'm going to write a song each week. It's like, okay, that is the non-negotiable thing that I'm going to do this week. But then it's sort of more open-ended as to when that inspiration will come through. But I would find, I guess that was something I was finding like in the last few years, was like, I guess, especially when I was like in high school and stuff like that and writing songs, I didn't have like, I didn't have a phone and computer and, you know, doing all these other sort of things, it was like when I came home from school, like there weren't really any other distractions. So if inspiration came in, I would capitalize on that like almost naturally because there was nothing else to do. Whereas like these days it's so easy to be like inspiration might come through, but you might barely hear it because you're scrolling on Instagram for so long or you're like doing all these other things. And so I was finding that if I wasn't setting the intention to write, that I just wouldn't naturally always fall into that unless it was a really strong feeling of doing it. And so almost just like having that intention in that more structured way of like, okay, this is something I'm going to do, made, I suppose it just made me more open to even feeling the inspiration when it was going to come in and be like prioritizing that over, because it was part of my to-do list, I guess, versus it being like an additional thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
don't know
like
if
you
that makes
built,
sense.
it does. It totally makes sense. It's like you build a foundation or you have a
Yeah.
structure or a framework for the creative energy to flow through. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's great. Like just setting that clear intention and that's all you need to do, right? Because then the rest will
Mm.
just take care of itself. Yeah. One step at a time. Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah. It's definitely been helpful for me.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So, I was also wondering, yeah, who inspires you?
Oh man, that's a big question. Um, hmm. I think right now I am really inspired by the people in my life, which I'm very lucky to be able to say that because I think we're not always in situations where all the people around us feel really aligned and really inspiring. But yeah, I feel very lucky at the moment to have a lot of really good people around me. Like I'm very inspired by so I do music and then I also work as a virtual assistant and doing healing stuff on the side as well. And so the lady that I work with there, friend slash co-worker, I find her really inspiring with how integrated she is with like business and energy and intuition and like taking action. And I find her very like, I don't know, I'm very inspired by her balance of both that creativity and action and boundary setting and then also like generosity with giving more than she has to sometimes. And so I find that really inspiring. Yeah, I'm really inspired by my partner like in many ways. I'm very inspired by my parents and then musically and all of that. Um, right now, again, I guess I'm very lucky. I feel like I'm in the space now where the people that I perform with and I play with are, you know, better musicians than me, like objectively. And that has recently been really inspiring because I think, you know, if you're not the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room sometimes. And so that's really inspired me to even just like get better at my craft. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's a bit of a long-winded question, but I think the people in my life really inspire me a lot.
That is so beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah,
That's really
thank
from the
you.
heart. Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're
I,
inspired by you as well.
well, that would be lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember like yeah, I remember going through a period of time though, especially like just outside of high school, and or like even in high school and embarking on more of that, I suppose, healing spiritual journey that I had to go on and feeling quite alone in a lot of those things. So a lot of my inspiration was like podcasters that I listened to and were quite external from my life. And I feel very lucky that, yeah, I guess I just couldn't have even imagined a time when the people or the sorts of people that I was inspired by would actually be the sort of people who I would actually find myself surrounded by on a daily basis.
Oh my
So
gosh,
thinking about it right now feels very surreal. I've never really,
that is so
yeah,
inspiring.
thought about that.
Wow. What's your favorite podcast?
Oh, what is my favorite podcast? I listen to a few different types. I listen to On a music podcast sort of level, I like listening to a podcast called And the Writer Is, and he talks to a bunch of different producers, songwriters, artists, and just sort of seeing where they came from and how they create and that sort of thing. There's a few music marketing podcasts that I like to listen to. Other podcasts that I listen to in more of a like this sort of spirituality realm, I listen to a podcast called Expanded Podcast, which is by To Be Magnetic. I also do a few of their like meditations, and they're really into like neuroscience behind I suppose like behind manifestation and behind just like growing your self-worth and all of that sort of thing. Um, Occasionally I also listen to one on a similar topic called like Align podcast it's called, um, which sort of piqued my interest because they were talking about the Akashic records um back in the day when I found them. And then I also listened to a few podcasts around well, not so much anymore, but like food, the relationship with food and body kind of things.
Wow.
Um, yeah, that's
Oh,
sort of, no, yeah, just pop in and out. What about you? What are some of your
oh,
favorites?
I love Smartless is one of my favorites, and
Yeah.
Kathy Heller I love as well. She's really inspiring.
Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't listened to either of those.
yeah. Manifest with Kathy Heller. Yeah, definitely check that out.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really great for just really she's just really oh, it's so hard to describe, but like
Yeah.
when you just feel like it's going to plug you in to your purpose, and you're just going to
Yeah.
be so on track and pumped up and all the things because she's just bang on every time, and you're just like, yes, Kathy,
Mm,
yes. So
I love that.
yeah. Yeah, so I'll flick you that at the end. And yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. It's so
definitely.
cool. Like podcasts, like how amazing. Like you can, it's just a game changer, right? If you want to learn about something specific, you can,
Yeah.
or you just want to hear something from a different angle. It's just very mind opening. It's a good thing for the world,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah,
I think so too. And it also gives everyone and anyone a voice, which
exactly.
is like one of the best things about today, isn't it?
It is. There's so much in that. That is so true. That's like true freedom of speech, right? You get to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is how I feel, this is how I think." And it's like if you're aligned with that, great, come on the journey with me. And if you're not,
Yeah.
move along with love. Thank you. It's
Thank
like
you. Bye.
bye.
Enjoy your
See
life.
ya.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. So what's next for you? What's coming up? You've got more gigs?
Yeah, I actually have a song coming out in maybe 3 or 4 weeks time on the 22nd of September. So I'm really excited about that. That song's called Mr. Man on the Moon. And that sort of feels like the first song. I suppose it feels like a new chapter in my music. A slightly different sound, a bit more fun, a bit more like, yeah, I suppose it just feels a bit more playful and where I'm at right now. So I'm really excited for that to come out. I filmed a really fun music video on the Central Coast,
Oh wow.
sort of like throwback 50s kind of vibe. Um, and then yeah, I've got a couple of gigs. I'm going down to Wagga. I'll be going up to like Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie. And I can't really think about the rest off the top of my head, but
Oh
yeah, just like I'm really excited at the moment to be putting out music again.
yeah.
That's what I'm most excited about.
Oh, that's great. And when you record, do you use the same producer, and do you record in Brisbane?
So I'm actually on the Central Coast, so based a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
north of Sydney.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I have been using the same producer for the last few songs. And yeah, definitely open to collaboration and working with. I sometimes work with like my guitarist, and we're going to do some writing together soon. And um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to sort of expanding that creative network. But yeah, I've been working with the same producers for a while now, actually.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I
it's been
love
really fun.
collaborating. How good is collaborating? And like
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so great. Like, I think this is the time we live in. Yeah, there's so many different ways to collaborate as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
cool.
love it. It's definitely a little um intimidating at times, especially creatively, because it feels very vulnerable. Um, but no, I really enjoy it. I feel like you can sometimes just make things like that much better, that much more creative. And also it forces me to finish things because I feel bad because I'm like, oh, the other person is also waiting on this to be done. So at some point you just have to make a decision that it's finished.
Yes, that is such a good point. The accountability piece. When you create something with
Yeah.
someone else, then it gives it like a time frame, that it needs to be
Yeah.
completed by. So I use that as a strategy too sometimes. And I
Yeah.
think it's fun. It's great. And if it really is important, right? If it is a priority, then you're going to do it and you're going to want to and you're going to find a way, because it's like if that's
Yeah.
coming from your heart and that's where, yeah, and that's driving you, and that inspiring sense of purpose, it's like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I love that. And like, um, I think especially creatively, like I can write a song on my guitar and I can like there are so many different genres, so many different sounds. Like you can make something and then you could go, oh, I don't like that, change it, change it. And you can make that same song like a million different ways. So I think sometimes just like working with someone, you're like, okay, we really have to find that sound that we're going to go with and just like pursue that. And it kind of helps to sort of like close all that open-ended like million different ways it can go, so that you actually have a direction and focus
Yeah,
for that creativity.
that is cool.
um
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's great.
I
Like
find
when
that
you,
very helpful.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, because you could just go in all different styles and all different sounds, and it's like, okay, let's just make a choice and see where it goes, and letting go of that perfection, or it has to be the best song in the
Yeah.
world. But like some people, like some of the best songs, the biggest hits, they've had like three or four or more people on that songwriting team. When you look at who wrote
Mm,
this song, it's like so and so and so and so and so and so. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It takes a group
yeah.
sometimes to make something really cool. Yeah.
And it's also really interesting that like I'm learning as well as what different songwriters sort of do, because most of the time like I'll write a song pretty much to completion and then you take it in and like you don't realize that the person who wrote the bass part is now a songwriter as well, like, or the person like, you can have like if you had every single part like written by the person who's playing an instrument, if you were say doing it live, like you're gonna have so many songwriters on one track because it's just like this, everyone's writing their line. And um yeah, I don't know, I think I always had the perception that like the person who wrote the lyrics and the melody was the songwriter, like in
Yeah.
a singer-songwriter sort of way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know why I said that, but like it
Oh,
just seems
it's
it's
so
been
cool.
interesting to see
Yeah.
how that creative collaborative process works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow. It's like
yeah.
there's so many possibilities. Like even sometimes when you get like a really great sound engineer, it's like it's just going to
Mm-hmm.
transform everything to the next level.
Totally changes
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Even like playing live music, like um I think one of the challenges for me has been like logistics of being a solo artist is that you're not always going to have the same bands and the same people can't always come. Um and that is still a headache almost every day. But like I've really learned to sort of embrace the fact that like that then means that every iteration of the band is different and each person's going to play it slightly differently, and that each time you step on stage it's almost, it's not a different song but it gives it a different sort of feeling, and each person gets to bring something a little bit different, and you just get to step on stage and be like, okay, this is whatever happens today is what happens today with this group of people. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you can give someone a line that's already been written and they'll still all play it a little bit different.
Well, that is great. That would keep all your performances really fresh. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely does.
Yeah.
That's
And
fun.
oh my gosh. And like when you go on stage, do you always just feel ready to go, or do you have to do something to kind of ground yourself or before you go on stage?
Um, no, I'm getting better at it. Like I think performing, I was actually like that used to be one of my biggest anxieties, honestly. Um, like I was always a very shy person, and so getting on stage was never like a natural thing for me. I've had to learn through that and had to um I don't know, I suppose be in that anxiety and learn how to be able to like quiet it down a little bit. So I still kind of do depending on how I'm feeling, but like normally right before a gig, I would be like, all right, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom and then spend like 5 minutes in a cubicle, like like talking to myself and just calming myself down, or like doing some like deep breaths and stuff like that to just come into my body. I find it's important for me to at least have a moment to like myself to just breathe. It's it's still important today. Before I used to like go in and like rehearse like every single thing I was going to say and like, you know, mentally do the whole show beforehand, and then I would still have to prep talk myself. But yeah, for me now it's like I like to set an intention for every gig, and then beforehand I like to just have a moment to tune into that intention. And yeah, it normally still takes place in the bathroom because that's the only place I can be by myself. Um, and yeah, I suppose because I haven't really set up a whole ritual with the whole band yet. I suppose that's something I've been a little self-conscious to do at times. I'm like, oh, is this too hippie weird if we
Oh
all
no.
like
Do the full
stand
Madonna
around?
prayer. Yeah, Madonna prayer
Yeah,
circle. Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
yeah. I like they don't care about this as much as I do. Like they're gonna think this is so weird. But,
Oh man. Just like
but
rallying the troops, getting them pumped up, it's
yeah.
like you're going into war or you're going to battle or something. You're
Yeah,
like, come on, people. Yeah, that's
we can do
fun.
it.
That's great.
Um, but we have done that sort of thing for a few gigs, and I think it's nice to just all connect and at the very least get up and like make sure you look at everyone and just check like, okay, are we ready? Are we all in this field together, ready to go? Yeah, that's a very long-winded way of answering your
Oh,
question,
that
but
is that is pure magic. Like co-creation, like of course you want to feel connected and aligned to your
yeah,
co-creators right before you go out there,
yeah,
and then there's magic, and then it's fun, and then it's light, and it's like I've seen you on stage, and it's like
yeah.
when we met that night and your energy was so good, and like you give the best hugs as well. That was so
Oh,
nice.
thank you. Thank you. That was such a fun night. Like that's actually probably the perfect example of that. Um, like that was a hard gig to prepare for, to be honest. Like that gig, we all of my bands that I normally played with couldn't come. Apart from one, my guitarist could come, but he was in Spain the entire month beforehand. And so with like a couple of weeks, I had to try to find other musicians to step in and get them all to Queensland and make sure they knew all the parts, and that was really hard. That was a huge turning point, that show. But like that was such a stressful lead up. I was so anxious about that one. And I remember before we went on, we were back at the place that we were staying at, and like I had a meditation in my ears and I was like upstairs doing my makeup, like doing a meditation at the same time. The bass player was like, what was he doing? He was doing yoga out the front. And then our drummer was like in the studio just like napping. we're all just we're like, this is how you prepare for a gig these days. It's not drinks and drugs and party. It's like we're all trying to zen out.
Oh
But then
god.
we got up there and like, which often happens, you often have that moment of intention and like connection. And then you go up and you forget about it all and you're like, oh, that felt like magic.
Yeah, that was
Like,
magic. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that was a full moon gig, wasn't it? The full moon
it
party.
was. That one
Yeah.
literally the opposites in terms of feelings, like of that extreme anxiety a couple of weeks beforehand, even that day, to like the second we stepped up was like, and then we were on top of the world. Like that was the best gig ever. Like that was so much fun. Like met all these amazing people, met you. And I was just like, whoa, like the extremes were so
Yes.
intense.
Oh, and it's like the payday, right? The payback for all the groundwork
Yeah.
you've done. You've shown up, you've been
Yeah.
consistent, you've been writing those songs, every week, every
Yeah.
day. You're just walking your talk. It's like, this is why you're here. This is your expression. This is how you spend your time and your
Yeah.
energy. And like, it feels right. And it's like, well, of course, why wouldn't you feel great? Why wouldn't you have a magical time on stage while you're
Yeah.
also providing that experience for other people? It's like, yes, you get to enjoy that too. And then that's infectious, right? Because then the audience can feel your joy and your good vibes. And it's like, that's the ideal gig, right? It's like win-win. Everyone's just
Yeah.
in that amazing energy. And it's just like nothing compares to it, does it?
Not at all. Thank you for saying that.
Oh, pleasure.
Yeah, that was, and that was also one of the first gigs because it was like the first time that I had basically a brand new band. That I really started practicing that, like letting go of how of the control of how I thought that it was going to turn out. And because I was so used to the way it sounded and I knew that it worked. And this time I didn't know if it was going to work. And I didn't know the musicians enough to know if I fully trusted them, but I was like, I'm here. I have no choice. I have to. Like, I have to trust. I have to just let go. And like, for me to give a good performance, I can't be thinking about what they're doing. And so just, yeah, that was sort of that first time trying like a totally different way of looking at it and being in that experience. And um, it felt like it worked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of shifted everything that festival did.
Wow. And I feel like it's the energy of surrender that you're speaking
Yeah,
into. And that's also what the world needs right now. We can't control everything with our minds. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to control everything, but
yeah,
to co create and allow what is best for the highest good to emerge. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I think surrender is one of those like buzzwords and where people are just like, oh, just surrender and it'll happen. But then sometimes it's like you can't force surrender. Like I was trying, I was trying to
Mm,
force that surrender, but sometimes until you're actually there under the pressure of that moment where you're like, I literally have no other choice
yeah.
but to surrender,
Yeah.
where
That's
you
it.
like fully sink into that and experience it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah. And then once you have that real full body experience, I suppose it feels easier to tap into on demand, I guess.
Fantastic. I mean, that it's just beautiful. It's like that, I guess it's you can only really experience it by actually actively being in it, right? It's like
Yeah.
patience, the energy of patience. You can't practice patience, like you can't feel patience unless you are actually practicing patience, right? It's like a verb.
Yeah.
You're in it, you're doing it. You can't just half be patient. You're either patient or you're not. And it's surrender, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll just dip my toe in. It's like boom, there's
Yeah.
the whole ocean, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh my gosh, patience is one that I have got to learn. It's like, I'm being patient, I'm being patient. Is it here? I'm being patient.
Yes, exactly. Oh, it's so true, man. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you for this beautiful chat, which we've been tuning into for a few weeks now, whilst you've been
Yeah.
darting across the country, spreading your magic.
Yeah.
So we did it.
And
Well
thank you for
done.
your patience with me.
Ah,
I'm
pleasure.
waiting for me to come
Honestly,
back.
yeah, yeah. I
I
was just
very much appreciate it.
seriously, I was just trusting the divine timing and fitting in with you. So that's all good. Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are. Well, this is part one. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a part two in the future. Thank you so much
Definitely,
for
I'd
coming
love
on.
that.
Oh
Thank
my
you so much for
gosh.
having me. This has been
Absolute
so
pleasure.
fun.
And hit up Elysae Music, Instagram, all the socials. She's
Mm.
there. Like amazing. Like good vibes. If you want to listen to some music that's just going to lift you up and plug you in, you know, have a
you.
listen to the beautiful Elysae. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll come up. You're in Brisbane?
Oh no, I'm on the sunny coast.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're on the Sunshine Coast. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, next time I'm up,
Please.
we can do one in person. We can do some music.
That'll be great. I would love
It'll
to.
be so fun.
It will be. We're going to do it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. See ya.
Bye.